we have a factor 10A inhibitors. Now, factor 10A inhibitors is classified as to whether they are direct or indirect. So when you say direct, these drugs work directly to factor 10A and inhibit that factor. And you know the importance of factor 10A. It's a common pathway, diba? So inhibiting that factor 10A eventually leads to inhibition of activation of thrombin. Therefore, wala ka ng thrombin, and this will now prevent the formation of clot. So, other direct 10A inhibitor, we also have oral and parenteral factor 10A inhibitor. So, lahat ng oral, direct. Okay? So, under oral, we have rivaroxaban, apisaban, and edoxaban. So, alam natin, 10A inhibitors yan. Kasi yung pangalan niya, di ba, may XA, that's 10A. Diba? 10A. 10A. So, yan lahat, yung may saban, those are your factor 10A inhibitors. Okay? So, this can be given orally. The effect is immediate. There's no need for overlapping with heparin or warfarin. So in case your patient develop adverse effect to heparin or warfarin, you can easily change medication and then shift the patient to direct oral anticoagulants. Okay? So, 10A inhibitor. Now, fondaparinux is an indirect, right? Indirect 10A inhibitor. Indirect because for it to act, it has to go through some transformation. So, it will have a conformational change in antithrombin. Why antithrombin is required for it to transform into an active form that eventually will inhibit factor 10A. Okay? Kaya sa mga 10A, kita mo siya lang yung may X na X lang. Hindi siya 10A kaagad kasi indirect siya. Okay? So, fondaparinux. So, these are also used for, so yung mga factor 10A, just like all the other anticoagulants, can be used as a prophylaxis against venous thromboembolism for those with valvular for those with valvular problem or those who undergone valvular replacement, those with atrial fibrillation, and these are alternative anticoagulant to the older anticoagulants that I have just mentioned. Okay? Now, in case, so just like all the other anticoagulants, the adverse effect is still bleeding. So just in case mag-bleed pa rin yung pasyente mo with factor 10A inhibitor, there is an antidote, okay? So we have andexanet alpha, okay? So this is sort of parang dyan magbabay. So it acts as a decoy, okay? Acting on the drug. Siya yung makikipag-bind sa drug, thus inhibiting the drug from binding to the real 10A, okay? Now, then we go to the next group ng newer anticoagulant. This time, we have the direct thrombin inhibitor. So, thrombin, factor 2A, factor 2A naman siya. Diretso na siya doon sa final factor that will lead to the production of the permanent clot. So, ito, diretso siya, thrombin inhibitor. No? So, we have parenteral direct thrombin inhibitors. So, they act or bind to the active site of thrombin. Used to be, ito yung mga tyrosine, babyluridine, right? But the newer ones now are the argatroban and menagatran. Ito na yung mga bago na direct thrombin inhibitors. Ito yung mga older thrombin inhibitors. So, mapapansin nyo naman, okay, sa mga thrombin inhibitors, yung mga bago ngayon, okay, meron siyang TR, thrombin. Thrombin. Ganyan. Okay? So, yun pala tandaan nyo para madali. Kasi doon kayo nahulog sa anti-plastic, di ba? Mga pangalan na. So, kaya kailangan alam natin, no? Yes. Diba? Baba ng passing rate natin eh. So, galing siya sa lepurine at ang lepurine galing naman sa leach sa saliva. Okay? But the lepurine was discontinued for as a lot of adverse effects, primarily antigenicity. So, pinalitan siya ng hirudin. Pero nga, ito na yung mga bago yan. Ergatroban, no? Shorter ang half-life, pero may be given, kasi parenteral to eh. So, this can be given IV also, just like heparin. So, just in case your patient develop HIV, may itigil mo yung heparin, pwede ito yung kamalit mo as anticoagulant. Then, we have the oral direct. O, ayaw mo ng warfarin, pwede mo siyang ibigay. Okay? So, the Bigatran, ayan din siya, yung pinaka-commonly used. Rapid onset din ang action, hindi kailangan ng overlapping. Unlike warfarin na matagal pa, iikot-ikot pa. No? Okay. Now, so this is a table summarizing the different anticoagulants. No? It also states here whether they are safe for patients with renal failure or dose adjustment if necessary. And these are the laboratory exams that may be utilized to monitor their after effect, and then the common adverse effect, and the potential reversal agents. So, pwede mong ibigay, just in case magkaroon ng adverse effect ng pasyente. So, lahat pinapulate ko na yan ng ganyan, o yan. So, nandiyan lahat yan sa PowerPoint nyo, no? Uploaded. Okay? Next. O yan lahat yun, anticoagulants, ha? Now we go to thrombolytics. So sa thrombolytics, ito na yung, hindi siya prophylaxis. Ito yung direct therapeutic drug that you can use in case your patient develops stroke. Meron na kasing thrombus eh, na-block na yung vessel. Kaya nag-i-stroke yung pasyente mo, kaya nag-i-MI yung pasyente mo. So there is a golden period where you can reverse that abnormality. Kailangan tunawin mo yung thrombus na yun. Okay? So that's why we have the thrombolytics. So thrombolytic or fibrinolytic is the same banana. Kasi they work by lysing the fibrin, okay? Leading the formation of fibrin degradation product. So yun naman ang ano yan eh. So sino ba ang primary player dito? Of course, plasmin, na galing sa plasminogen. Plasminogen is inactive. Once activated, it becomes plasmin. And plasmin is just like Pac-Man, siya yung pumapatay dun sa, or sumisira dun sa mga thrombus. So in effect, lahat ng mga fibrinolytic drugs, they work by enhancing the effect of plasmin. Hindi sila yung dumediretso dyan sa fibrinogen or sa fibrin gland, kundi ina-enhance nila yung effect ng plasmin. Ito yun, no? So, nandiyan yung mga urokinase, yung mga TPase, leptokinase, ito yan siya. Sa pathway, ina-activate niya yung plasminogen to form plasmin, and it is plasmin that eventually will lyse the gland. Okay? So they are used to lyse the already formed glands. So first one of these is streptokinase. Isa sa mga oldest fibrinolytic. No? It is derived from bacteria, group B strep. Okay? And it works by first binding to a plasminogen. Pag nag-bind siya sa plasminogen, yung combination na yan ang mag-activate sa succeeding plasminogen, forming now plasmin. Okay? So, ang problema lang dito, pinaka-common problem with streptokinase is that, one, relatively non-specific. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Non-specific siya because it is able, by the plasmin that is eventually generated, is unable to determine which one is the new blood or the older blood. Okay? So, kaya nang i-lyse lahat ng klase ng clots, whether old clots or new clots. So, ang risk ng bleeding is very high. No? And also, since it is derived from a bacteria, it is highly antigenic. So, pwede magkaroon ng hypersensitivity reaction. Okay? So, ito ang main uses niya, yung hindi lahat ng MIA, yung STEMILA, ST elevated myocardial infarction. O kaya, yung mga life-threatening pulmonary embolism. Then, another is urokinase, works the same as streptokinase, but derived from kidneys. Okay? So, it directly converts plasminogen to plasmin. And then ito yung bago, yung tissue plasminogen activator. Okay? So, meron tayong TPA, natural. But the ones that we give is produced by recombinant engineering. Okay? So, they are no longer antigenic kasi hindi galing sa plant or animals, no, or bacteria. So, it is by recombinant engineering. So, halos pareho ng natural TPA. So, ang kagandahan ng recombinant tissue plasminogen activator is that it only lyses the newly formed thrombi. Oh. So, yung mga lumang thrombus ko dyan, hindi nagagalawin. Yung mga bago lang. Okay? So, it works only on in the presence of fibrin binding. Yung mga luma na wala na siyang effect doon. Kaya freshly formed clots ang nalalays ng mga RTPA. Okay? Kaya ito yung preferred yung preferred thrombolytic or fibrinolytic in case of MI or STEMI and stroke. Okay? So, they are very effective in recanalizing occluded coronary arteries. No? So, ito yung mga gamit niya. But of course, the adverse effect would still be bleeding. And these are the different TPAs na genetically engineered. So, you have your tenectin base. Nagkakaiba lang sila sa kanilang half-lives. But all of them are very specific for newly formed thrombi. That's why they are the ones that are used. Okay? Now, we go to the last one. Ito yung mga pangontra natin sa effect ng mga anticoagulants. First, we have protamine, di ba? Pangontra natin against what yan? Heparin bleeding, di ba? And then, we have the aprotinine. It's a naturally occurring polypeptide. It is an inhibitor of plasmid, inhibitor ng TPA, inhibitor din ng thrombin. Okay? Ito naman, it promotes clot stabilization. Okay? So, mape-prevent naman ang bleeding din dyan. Ito naman, then we have the lysine analogs, yung tranexamic acid. Once upon a time, minum kayo niyan, di ba? Binunutan kayo ng ipin para hindi masyadong mag-bleed yung ipin nyo, di ba? So, binigyan kayo ng tranexamic acid. Sa mga minsan, kung halimbawa, malakas ng mens, di ba? Binibigyan din minsan yan. So, this is also used to reduce perioperative bleeding during coronary artery bypass. So, ini-stop niya yung bleeding. Okay? Then lastly, we have the antiplatelets. So, iba na naman to hindi sila anticoagulants. Antiplatelets sila. Doon sa second step ng hemostasis. First step is vasoconstriction by endothelium, followed by the formation of temporary platelet block. Okay? So, itong mga gamot na pag-usapan natin, these are drugs that inhibit platelet activation, thus inhibiting formation of platelet blocks. So, sino-sino ba ang mga binibigyan natin na to? Yung mga pasyente natin na nag-MI din, yung mga pasyente na may stroke, yung mga pasyente na may tendency na mag-produce ng unnecessary thrombi. So, paano ba nangyayari yung platelet activation? So, usually, it starts with vascular injury. The exposure of the collagen, okay, leads to also the exposure of von Willebrand factor. So, yung von Willebrand factor, it acts as a trap, no? Tina-trap niya yung mga platelet via the GP1D receptor, forming the GP1D von Willebrand collagen complex. Okay? So, dito matatrap yung platelet. Dahil hindi na siya makagalaw, kaya it will send signal. So, yung mga platelets na na-trap, dito sa may endothelial injury, will send signals, no? Calling for help for other platelets. And that will lead now to the activation of the platelet. They will release granules, no? And ultimately, leading to the activation of the entire platelet. So, ultimately, ito siya. So, mag-release. So, initially, mako-convert yung arachidonic acid into thromboxane A2. Thromboxane A2, as we all know, is also a potent vasoconstrictor. Not to mention that it is very effective in activating the platelet. No? So, ma-activate yan yung thromboxane that will be released by will bind to other platelets via the thromboxane receptor, okay? And then, wala na to. Ay, wala na siya. Tapos, ay, yan. So this is a G-protein coupled receptor, so ma-activate yung diacylglycerol pathway, phosphokinase pathway, ultimately, okay, ma-activate yung GP2B3A receptor. Yung GP2B3A receptor na mga platelets, yun ang magbabind sa fibrinogen. So parang, ayan siya, no? So ito yung GP2B3A receptors, parang kamay ng mga platelets. Okay, sila ang mahahawak doon sa fibrinogen. Isipin mo na lang, no? So you have here a platelet na na-trap. So meron siyang mga kamay na ganyan, no? So ma-activate yung kamay niya, mag-release siya ng signal eh. So maglalabas ng lubid, yung lubid yun yung fibrinogen. At yung fibrinogen, yun yung hahawak sa kabilang receptor ng other platelet, no? So we have there the GP2B3A receptors binding to the fibrinogen. Diba? So sino nanonood sa inyo ng cells at work? Yan. Sila yun, diba? Maraming platelets, yung mga platelets doon, diba? Sila yung mga bata, tapos may backpack, diba, no? So sa Netflix din, sa Netflix. Oo. Doon din tayo. So ngayon, how do we prevent these platelets from being active? Okay, so these are the different anti-platelet agents. We inhibit the COX enzyme, phosphodiesterase, so then we also have the phosphodiesterase inhibitors, ATP receptor pathway inhibitor, and then the GP2B3A receptor antagonist. Okay, let's talk about COX. We talked about COX a long time ago, not so long ago, just a few months or weeks ago. Ay, hindi, months naman, diba? Pharma A, the NSAIDs, diba? You have the COX. And ano ba ang role ng COX? It converts. Ano ang mechanism ng COX? It converts what? Ano ang precursor na inaanilipid niya? Arachidonic acid. Acted upon by COX to form prostaglandins, diba? So, yun yung sa pain pathway. Pero dito sa ating platelet, ito rin kasi yung pathway ng pag-form ng thromboxane. Okay? So, yung mga prostaglandins, these are precursors of thromboxane A2 and prostacyclin. Okay? So, ang aspirin is a non-selective COX enzyme. So, it inhibits both COX and COX1 and 2. And we all know that COX1, ito yung natural na meron tayo. Hindi siya dumadami, hindi siya kumukonte. Pero halos lahat ng cells would have this COX enzyme. At ang sabi natin, platelets do not have nucleus, di ba? So when they are released in the circulation, they have everything they need throughout their lifetime. Kasi may lang naman ang lifetime nila eh. Ilang araw lang pa ang buhay ng platelet? 7 to 10 days. Okay? Ang red cell, gaano katagal ang buhay? 120 days. No? So, ang platelets, wala na siyang nucleus. Hindi na kailangan ng nucleus. Ano ba ang role ng nucleus sa isang cell? Diba? Nandun sa nucleus yung mga DNA, diba? And it's very important for rapidly multiplying. It's necessary to produce newer proteins. And since ang platelet, they do not have any nucleus, pagkamaya na wala sa kanila, hindi na nila kayang i-generate ulit. They can no longer generate newer proteins kasi wala silang nucleus. That's why when we give aspirin, okay, itong mga platelets na to, nawawala ang COX nila and they are inhibited for the entire lifetime. Okay? So, ang effect ng aspirin sa platelet is throughout its lifetime. Kaya kung halimbawa, nagpapa-opera ka, no? Pero nag-delay ka ng aspirin. Okay? Kailangan, ikaw, nag-decision, yung pasyente mo na ma-operahan, kailangan i-stop mo yung kanyang aspirin. Okay? For about 7 to 10 days prior to the surgery. Okay? Kasi, kailangan may bago na siyang pool ng platelets na hindi inhibited ng aspirin. Okay? So, maliwanag yun, ano? So, you do not do surgery sa mga pasyente. Elective surgery ito, pag sinabi natin elective, yung kaya mong i-schedule yung surgery ng pasyente, hindi emergency. Eh, paano kung emergency? Ito gawin mo na talaga. Wala kang magagawa. But you have to be careful na alam mo dapat mag-bleed yung pasyente, so you have to have blood, no? Para hindi mahirapan during the surgery. Okay? So, ang aspirin, it works by inhibiting the COX enzyme, thereby inhibiting the formation of thromboxane, so hindi na sila ma-activate, hindi sila mag-perform na, they will not aggregate, so there is no platelet aggregation and platelet blood formation. Okay? Ayan siya, no? So, low-dose aspirin at 75 to 150 milligram, it can induce complete or near complete inhibition of COX-1, thus inhibiting production of thromboxane. Next, yung mga phosphodiesterase enzyme. So, napakadaming phosphodiesterase na type, ano? So, ang subset ng phosphodiesterase is either cyclic AMP or cyclic GMP. Ano ginagawa ng enzyme nito? So, sila yung nagme-metabolize ng CAMP and CGMP. Now, in case you inhibit the enzyme, okay, yung mga phosphodiesterase inhibitors, they inhibit phosphodiesterase. So, in essence, either tataas yung CAMP, tataas yung CGMP, or both. Huh? So, yung phosphodiesterase 1, 2, 3, okay, siyang nag-hydrolyze sa CAMP and CGMP. Pag inhibit mo yung phosphodiesterase 1, 2, 3, tataas ito. Phosphodiesterase 4 and 8 hydrolyzes CAMP, phosphodiesterase 5 hydrolyzes cyclic GMP. Okay, so yun yung role ng mga phosphodiesterases. Pag inhibit mo yung action nila, itong mga ito, tataas. No? So, anong effect niyan sa heart? Di ba naalala nyo? Nung meron kayong management ng heart failure, naalala nyo pa ba yan? Yung mga phosphodiesterase inhibitors nyo in case of heart failure, di ba? So, anong role ng phosphodiesterase inhibitor sa heart failure? Ano ang action niya? They increase force of cardiac contraction. Kasi inhibit mo yung phosphodiesterase, tataas yung cyclic AMP. And if you increase the cyclic AMP, it increase cardiac contractility. So, okay para sa may heart failure. Also, ginagamit din siya sa blood vessels kasi inhibition of phosphodiesterase in the blood vessel will increase the cyclic GMP, di ba? And that will cause vasodilation, di ba? And it promotes blood flow. Kaya ginagamit mo rin sa angina, di ba? Now, sa platelets, anong role niya? Ang phosphodiesterase in the platelet, tataas din ang cyclic AMP. At anong sabi natin? Pagka mataas yung intracellular cyclic AMP sa platelets, bababa ang platelet aggregability. Oh, so ganyan ha? So, it inhibits the platelet activation and aggregation, thus preventing platelet plug formation. So, ano example ng mga phosphodiesterase inhibitors na may anti-platelet activity? First, we have dipyridamole. A long time ago, it's used for management of angina. Pero, ang problema with dipyridamole, kasi sabi natin, phosphodiesterase inhibitor is a vasodilator. At the same time, it inhibits platelet aggregation. So nape-prevent mo na mag-MI yung pasyente kung meron siyang angina. Kasi angina is a risk for MI, di ba? Sabi natin. So, ngayon, but they found out later on na ang phosphodiesterase causes the coronary still phenomenon. Ano yung coronary still phenomenon? Ang coronary still phenomenon is that the drug dilates the vessel, but dinadivert niya yung blood flow to the already vascularized or isasabihin natin area ng heart na highly perfused. Pero iniiwan niya yung area na ischemic. So kaya nagkakaroon ng steam. Ini-steam niya yung blood flow towards the areas which are highly perfused, preventing blood flow to the ischemic area. Kaya wala rin kwenta, di ba? So yung some patients develop MI. Kaya ngayon, hindi na siya ginagamit for angina. It's used as an anti-platelet na lang. But its anti-platelet activity is weak. That's why you have to combine it with aspirin pa. Oh. Then another one is xylostazol. Ang xylostazol naman, ginagamit for intermittent claudication. Dito sa paa, yung pag may masakit yung paa mo, kasi nagpo-constrict yung mga vessels, no? So, yun, ang ginagawa na xylostazol, it dilates the vessels dito sa limb para maiwasan yung pagsakit ng mga binte, no? And also, it has a weak anti-platelet activity. Okay? Then next, yung ADP receptor pathway inhibitors. So, yung ADP receptor pathway inhibitors, ito sila. Ito yung masikat ngayon na anti-platelet. Kasi ang problema sa aspirin, di ba, pwede mag-GI feed, lalo na pag medyo may edad na, masakit sa sikmura. So, we have now an alternative. Ito yan sila. So, ticlopidine ang unang lumabas na ADP receptor pathway. And then, lumabas yung clopidogrel, no? Mga mid-2000 yan. Mga 2000, 2010, lumabas yan. Tapos, ito na yung mga bago, prasugrel, yung pinakabago is ticagrelor. So, they irreversibly block the ADP receptors of the platelet, no? Wala silang effect sa prostaglandin. Inhibition of ADP receptor leads to inhibition of platelet activation and aggregation. Hindi na sila mag-akapit kamay. Hindi na sila mag-activate, no? Now, ticlopidine is a prodrug. Okay? So, the maximum platelet inhibition is 8 to 11 days after initiating therapy, and it is used for prevention of thrombotic strokes, no? And also, it may be used together with aspirin in case you want to prevent stent thrombosis. You will undergo na ng angioplasty, di ba? May stent doon, risk na magkaroon ng thrombosportation, so pwede siyang ibigay. Pero, ang problema with ticlopidine, marami siyang adverse effect. It can cause neutropenia, thrombocytopenia, and thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura. Kaya, lumabas ngayon ang clopidogrel. No? So, ang clopidogrel naman, it is a prodrug. Hindi pa siya active. Prodrug pa lang siya. So, it will undergo oxidation via CYP3A4. So, again, it has a drug-drug interaction with other drugs that may inhibit the activity of this enzyme. Okay? So, pwede siyang merong mga drug-drug interaction. So, ginagamit din siya for primary prevention of stroke in the MI and for acute coronary syndrome. Ang unang nasabi na adverse effect na is GI, pero milder compared to aspirin. But just like ticlopidine, there are some patients who develop purpura and thrombocytopenia when taking these drugs, especially the elderly. And then, lastly, yung last group ng anti-platelet, we have the GP2B3A inhibitors. O alam niyo na yung GP2B3A. These are the receptors that ultimately bind two platelets to our fibrinogen. Diba? Parang mga kamay nila yan. So, inhibiting this receptor will prevent them from binding with fibrinogen, thus preventing them from sticking to each other. So, other GP2B3A inhibitors, we have the eptifibatide, okay? And it is used to reduce ischemic events who undergo percutaneous coronary intervention, yung mga nag-angioplasty, and to treat unstable angina. Another one, yung pinakabago, yung monoclonal antibody, okay, works also by binding this GP2B3A receptor. Pinablock nila yan. Okay? So, in effect, hindi magkakaroon ng platelet blood formation. Okay? And then, this is another one, Tirofiban. Okay, same thing, GP2B3A antibodies. Do you have questions? If not, we will continue with the last topic. Konti na lang to. Konti na lang yung last topic. If you are ready.
Uuwi kang dorm or dito?
for management of anemia and other Meredith-Klasnik disease. So, we all know there are the common cause of anemia, the most common is nutritional, and among the nutritional, it's iron deficiency that is most common. Hindi naman talaga dapat tayo magkaroon ng anemia because secondary to iron deficiency because our body doesn't give rid of iron talaga. Wala talagang system to throw away iron except for females who have menstruation, sila yung karaniwan na malakas maglabas ng iron sa katawan. But all the other, so sa males, halos konti lang yung pinaka reason why iron will be excreted out of the body. As a matter of fact, yung katawan natin, ang tendency is yung iron to be stored, no? Hindi i-excrete. Now, once there is iron deficiency, obviously, we all know it will lead to a form of anemia called that microcytic hypochromic anemia. Now, how is iron absorbed? Because the primary source of iron would be external, galing sa food natin, di ba? So, iron is absorbed in the intestine. So, it is absorbed in the duodenum and the proximal jejunum. Now, if we have low iron stores, the absorption would be higher. Right? So, ang absorption ng iron depende yun sa pangangailangan ng katawan natin. Diba? So, pag mababa ang iron stores mo, mas mataas ang absorption ng iron. Pero kung hindi naman malakas din yung absorption. Paano ba yung absorption ng iron? So, we have the active transport of iron coming from the food or nutrition or external sources. No? So, there is a transporter, we call that the DMT1 transporter. Sana lamayin natin. So, yan. Okay, so from the intestinal lumen, okay, so ma-absorb siya sa epithelial cells. So, nandiyan dyan yung ating transporter, DMT1. This will absorb the ferrous iron from the food. And those heme iron will be absorbed or transported by the heme carrier protein or the HCP1. Okay, tandaan niyo magkaiba yung kinukuha nilang iron na, kaya dalawa yung transporter. Now, once this iron is absorbed, they will be transported into the blood by ferroportin. Okay? Yung galing sa kinain natin, yung yung DMT1, yung galing sa heme na iron, yung CP1, pagka nandiyan na siya, dadalhin siya sa blood, okay, by ferroportin. And then, the peroxidase hepastine is the one that oxidizes it into ferric iron. Now, the liver-derived hepcidin, okay, inhibits intestinal cell iron. So, ito na yan siya, no? Now, from the blood, this iron will be transported into the erythroid precursor in the bone marrow by transferrin. The hepatocytes will store this iron into ferritin. Okay? Transferrin iron complex binds to transferrin receptors in the erythroid precursor cells and the hepatocytes. So, eventually, yung mga macrophages, sila naman yung magpapagosite ito sa senescent red cell, eventually, i-release din yung iron doon. And then, eventually, it will be stored or utilized in the formation of hemoglobin. Now, yun nga, as I've said a while ago, yung elimination ng iron, there is really no mechanism for excretion. So, yung tendency talaga ng katawan natin is store. No? Only small amount or trace amount will be eliminated in the feces, in the bile, urine, or sweat. Now, in case of iron deficiency, what else can we give? So, syempre, no other than the iron therapy. And there are two forms, the oral and parenteral iron therapy. So, the oral iron therapy, there are three preparations, the sulfate, gluconate, and fumarate. Now, whenever we give iron as a treatment for iron deficiency anemia, we compute the iron deficiency and the amount of iron that we give in the form of elemental iron. Okay? So makikita nyo, yung iba-ibang preparation ng iron, iba-iba rin yung elemental iron content. So ang computation is not based on the tablet size, but it is based on the elemental iron content. Diyan ka magko-compute, no? So among the different preparations, ang may pinakamalaking content ng elemental iron is the fumarate. Okay? Ang pinaka-konti is the ferrous gluconate. And what are the adverse effects of oral iron therapy? Una, hindi siya masarap, lasang bakal. No? So kaya masusuka-suka ka na, sa lasa ka lang. Plus, hindi rin siya, hindi pa rin siya friendly sa abdomen, sa GI. So nakakakos siya ng abdominal cramps, nakakasakit siya ng tiyan. Kaya nga sa mga buntis, hindi yan masyadong binibigay during the first trimester. Kasi nga, bukod sa nagsusuka sila because of pregnancy, nakaka-add pa to sa trigger ng nausea and vomiting. Okay? Now oral iron therapy, oral iron is best absorbed in an acidic medium. Okay? So, pinakamaganda siya kung may acid. Kaso, hindi naman siya pwedeng empty stomach ibigay. Kasi nga, masakit siya sa sikmura. No? So, hindi na tolerate ng pasyente. So, we always give it after a meal. And usually, what we do is ask the patient to take it with juice na merong vitamin C. Kasi the acid in the juice will enhance the absorption of iron. Okay? So, yun na lang yung technique natin. Instead of asking them to take it on an empty stomach. So now, there is another form of iron. We have the parenteral iron. Okay? Parenteral iron. So, sino naman ang binibigyan ng parenteral iron? Sabi natin, oral iron na lang. Kaso, may mga pasyente na mayroong malabsorption. Hindi nila na-absorb yung oral iron. So, there's no other way but to give it parenterally. Okay? Those who cannot tolerate or absorb iron, those with advanced chronic renal disease, that require hemodialysis, post-gastrectomy, yung mga IBS, at saka yung may malabsorption syndrome. Sila yung binibigyan ng parenteral iron therapy. At ano ang preparation ng parenteral iron? Karaniwan, yan, iron dextran, sodium ferric gluconate, and iron sucrose. Okay? So, ang iron dextran will be given IM or IV. But IV is the more common use kasi hindi siya kasing sakit ng IM. Okay? So, these are the adverse effects of parenteral iron therapy. Then you go to erythropoietin. Okay? So, erythropoietin is also used in the management of anemia. Pero hindi lang sa iron deficiency. Okay? We all know that erythropoietin is produced in the kidneys and therefore patients with CKDs would have low erythropoietin. Diba? So, sila yung naman nagda-dialysis. And of course, there are also other conditions where erythropoietin may be required. And we all know that erythropoietin is necessary to stimulate red cell production by the bone marrow. Okay? Now, erythropoietin is utilized to prevent. Kaya siya ginawa para ma-prevent yung frequent transfusion. Kasi ang mga merong CKD, they develop anemia, sometimes so severe, kaya kailangan ng erythropoietin. And also some other dysplastic condition. So as I've said, it stimulates erythroid proliferation and it acts on erythropoietin receptor. And the erythropoietin receptor is a JAK-STAT receptor, right? Which is a superfamily of the cytokine receptor. So, pag nagbigay ka ng erythropoietin, so it will stimulate bone marrow production of red cells, at dahil anemic yung pasyente mo, even the immature red cell would be drawn out into the circulation in the form of reticulocyte. Okay? So, in case of renal failure, sa mababang erythropoietin nila, kaya binibigyan natin sila ng erythropoietin. And what are the different forms of erythropoietin? Ang pinaka-commonly used is the recombinant human erythropoietin or the REPO. Ito yung karaniwang binibigay sa mga nag-hemodialysis. Pasalamat na lang tayo sa PhilHealth, ina-cover na rin yan. No? So, nung araw, mahirap magpa-dialysis dahil mahal. With PhilHealth, so, libre na at least ang 2 hemodialysis in a week, plus libre din ang erythropoietin. So, sana mas marami pang funds ang maibalik sa PhilHealth para mas marami yung matulungan. Okay? And then, yung other 2 forms ng erythropoietin, yung methoxypolyethylene glycol or yung pegylated erythropoietin beta and darbepoetin alpha. Okay? So, ano pagkakaiba nitong dalawang ito sa REPO? Itong mga pegylated at saka itong darbepoetin, the newer form of ESAs, have higher, longer duration of action compared to repos. Kasi ang repos, binibigay siya generally administered 3 times a week. Parenteral yan. Okay? So, by subcutaneous route. So, ayan, 3 times a week. So, madalas, di ba? Now, with darbepoetin, it's a modified erythropoietin and it is administered weekly na lang, once a week. Kasi longer ang duration of action niya. And then we have the methoxypolyethylene glycol, erythropoietin beta, mas longer yung half-life. Kasi you can give it every 2 weeks. Hindi na once a week. So yung isa, 3 times a week. Yung isa, once a week. Ito, once every 2 weeks or monthly interval because of long half-life. Diba? So, pero syempre, pagka ganon, siya ang pinakamahal kumpara mo doon sa tatlo. Pinakamura, syempre, yung repo. Pero pagka kinumpute mo, yung 3 repo sa isang linggo, times 2 weeks, halos kapareho na rin niya yung presyo ng isang methoxypolyethylene ng pegylated epoetin. Okay? So, yun yung give and take one. So, kung kukumpitin mo, basta namin ng pasyente, ang mahal naman niya. O sige, kumpitin natin. O, ito. So, kung installment ang kaya, so, repos tayo. Installment eh. Pero kung kaya ng isang pagsak, dito tayo para isang tusok lang. Diba? So, minsan iisipin mo rin yun ganun para sa pasyente. Kasi mas convenient kung once every 2 weeks lang. Diba? At saka, sino ba ang gusto ng parating tinutusukan? Ito, once lang. Once every 2 weeks. Twice a month. Okay? So, sa kailan natin siya pinibigay? Again, anemia at karaniwan yan yung mga pasyente na nag-hemodialysis. Okay? So, ang effect niyan, makikita mo na in 10 days, tataas ang retic count. No? Tapos, tataas na ang hematocrit and hemoglobin in 2 to 6 weeks. Okay? Now, ito ang importante. Dosages is adjusted to maintain the target hemoglobin up to, but not exceeding 10 to 12. So, kung halimbawa mo, binigyan mo ng erythropoietin kasi hemoglobin ng pasyente mo 8. O kaya 9. So, binigyan mo ng erythropoietin, umakyat na sa 10, 11, tigil ka na. Kasi kung pwedeng magkaroon ng adverse effect yung... Kasi syempre, lahat ng binibigay mo, pwede magkaroon ng adverse effect. Diba? So, dito ka na lang hanggang 10 to 12 not to exceed that hemoglobin level. So, saan pa? To reduce the red cell transfusion in patients who undergo myelosuppressive chemotherapy and for selected patients with low-risk myelodysplastic syndrome. So, sila yung binibigyan natin ng ESAs or erythropoietin. Ano ang adverse effect ba? So, dapat alam natin ano ang katatakutan natin sa erythropoietin. Pag hindi mo alam to, di parang pababayaan mo lang yung pasyente mo. So, kailangan minamonitor ang blood pressure. Okay? And risk of thrombotic complication. Ano ang thrombotic complication? Karaniwan yan, stroke. So, yan ang babantayan mo pag nagbibigay ka ng erythropoietin. Okay? against erythropoietin. So nangyari yan dati sa unang erythropoietin na inilabas nila yung Eprex, pero ngayon hindi na siya ginagamit. Okay? Next, another form of anemia is due to B12 deficiency. Okay? Dapat hindi tayo magkakaroon ng B12 deficiency kasi napakadaming pagkain ang pwedeng source ng B12. No? At ano ang mangyayari kung may B12 deficiency ka? You develop megaloblastic form of anemia. Okay? So, and sabi natin, mostly due to inadequate absorption. Okay? Ang active form ng vitamin B12 is your deoxyadenosylcobalamin. Kailangan na po pronounce. Okay? Huwag yung deoxychorchorcobalamin. Huwag ganun. Kasi the first step in memorizing the drug is to remember the name. You cannot remember the name if you cannot even pronounce it even in your mind. Dapat lahat para mag-pronounce deoxyadenosylcobalamin. Kasi konti lang yung gamot dito sa part na to pero yung mga pangalan ng gamot ay napakahaba. Yun ang naging dahilan, okay, ng downfall nyo sa antimicrobial at anti-neoplastic. Diba? Ginorger nyo kasi hindi nyo ma-pronounce. Basta sure, wag ganyan. Wag ganyan. So, ang vitamin B12 na active is deoxyadenosylcobalamin and your methylcobalamin. Yung galing sa food natin, yan yung cyanocobalamin and hydroxycobalamin. Sana ultimate source yung microbial synthesis sa gut. No? Pero, ano yung mga food na mataas sa vitamin B12? Meat, especially liver. Sa mamayang tanghali. Ano na ang order natin si Ate Joy? Yung mga pagkain na mayroong liver. Sabihin nyo, ay, hindi ako kumakain ng liver. Maganda yung B12, no? Ano yung mga pagkain na may atay? Menudo. Ano pa? Bukod sa minuto, wala bang minuto kay Ate Joy ngayon? Ano ngayon? Ay, wala mo siya sa adobo na Igado, yes. Igado. You know what igado is? It's like menudo. Except that igado doesn't have tomato sauce. It has more vinegar para mas maasim. It may also have patatas and green peas. Sa menudo, it's red because of the tomato sauce. There's another one. Sometimes they also use put atay or liver sa dinuguan. Yung mga nasa iglesia, bawal din sa kanila. So, yung dugo, kung sa mga iglesia, hindi kayo pwede sa dinuguan, the best bet is igado. Okay? Ang kawala lang doon is dugo. But, yung pagluto ng igado at tsaka ng dinuguan, same banana. Oo. Meron lang dugo yung isa, yung kabilang banana. Pero try nyo, masarap. Tapos meron pa rin liver steak. Hindi ko sabihin, i-try nyo yung minuguan. Kung bawal sa inyo, bawal. Wala natin pilitin. Makakasala pa sila. Pero tayo, nalukay tayo sa minuguan, dito. Okay? So, saan pa? Ayaw ko talaga ng atay. Kasi yung mga anak ko, tinatagal yung atay sa minuto. So, anong gagawin? Lagyan mo na lang ng itlog. Yung itlog, ayan. At mataas din sa cobalamin yan and other dairy products. Ayan. So, hindi tayo mababawasan talaga ng B12. Maliban na. So, it is stored primarily in the liver. Tapos, ang daily requirement lang naman natin, 2 microgram. O, diba? So, hindi ka dapat magkaroon ng B12 deficiency. The only reason why some would develop B12 deficiency is when they lack the intrinsic factor. The intrinsic factor is necessary for absorption of B12. So kung wala ka nun, meron kang genetic problem or meron kang conditions saan ang intrinsic factor ay wala sa iyo, doon nagkakaroon ka ng malabsorption ng B12. Okay? So ito yung mga causes ng vitamin B12 deficiency, yung pernicious anemia. Ano yung pernicious anemia? Defective secretion of intrinsic factor in the gastric mucosa. So wala magkakaroon ka ng B12 deficiency. Sino pa? Yung merong nag-undergo ng gastrectomy, yung mga conditions that affect the distal ileum, like malabsorption, inflammatory bowel disease, at yung mga strict graveyards. Ay, talaga mga gulay lang po ako. Kasi siya sige, kung ito ay puro gulay, pinag ko na lang ng folic ng B12 na supplement. Okay? To prevent blood deficiency. Eh, ano ba ang importansya ng cobalamin? Okay? Or ng B12? Okay, as you can see, methylcobalamin is an intermediate in the transfer of the methyl group from the N5-methyl tetrahydrofolate into homocysteine forming methionine. Ito siya. No? So kung wala kang vitamin B12, itong entire pathway na ito maaapektuhan. Hindi mag-opposite sa N5-methyl tetrahydrofolate to tetrahydrofolate. Ano ba importansya ng tetrahydrofolate? Importante yun for the synthesis of DTMP, deoxyribonucleic, and purines required for DNA synthesis. O, so sino ba yung nagre-require ng maraming DNA? Hindi siyempre yung rapidly multiplying cells. Yan na nga yung aming blood cells. Okay? So, kapag wala kang dito, maapektuhan yung DNA synthesis, kaya nagkakaroon ka ng anemia. And also, how do you determine kung merong cobalamin deficiency yung pasyente? Tataas yung, mag-accumulate yung folate as N5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. Magiging ganyan lang siya. Hindi siya mako-convert dyan. So, ito yung tinatawag mo methylfolate trap. No? At hindi siya magkapuform ng methionine. Mababa yung kanyang level ng methionine. Okay? So, that is the reason why this explains why megaloblastic anemia B12 deficiency can be partially treated or corrected with folic acid. Kasi kung bibigyan mo siya ng folic acid, dito na siya. No? Hindi niya na kailangan dito. Ngayon, pag may vitamin B12 deficiency ka, yung megaloblastic anemia na mangyayari, pwedeng makorek ng folic acid, pwedeng makorek ng B12. Pero, itong pathway na to, there is another pathway where cobalamin is very important. Ito, yung formation of succinyl-CoA. So, methylmalonyl is necessary methylmalonic acid conversion to succinyl-CoA. Kapag itong pathway na to ay naapektuhan dahil wala kang cobalamin, dahil may pernicious anemia ka, anong mangyayari? This explains the reason for the neurologic symptoms associated with B12 deficiency. Okay? So that's how you differentiate megaloblastic anemia from B12 and folic acid deficiency. Kasi pareho sila, may megaloblastic anemia. Anong difference? Sa vitamin B12, meron kang neurologic symptoms. No? So ito yung characteristic niya. So yung neurologic syndrome associated with B12 deficiency, yan, paresthesia, spasticity, ataxia, and other CNS problems. Ngayon, pag ito ay na-develop na sa tao na may B12 deficiency, hindi na siya nako-correct. Oo. Ang mako-correct lang is the anemia, but not the neurologic. Okay? So ano ang binibigay for treatment of B12 deficiency? We give cyanocobalamin or hydroxycobalamin, and they are given parenterally by injection. Di ba? So, pagka meron ka ng deficiency, parenteral na yan siya. So, pwedeng initial therapy, daily o IM, daily. And then, maintenance po, IM monthly. Kung may neurologic abnormalities, ang maintenance po is every 1 to 2 weeks for 6 months. Tapos, magiging monthly injection yan. So, parang mas masakit, no? Now, for patients who do not like the parenteral B12, they can opt for oral doses of B12 in 1,000 microgram. Pero, dahil may malabsorption sila, hindi rin naman nila ma-absorb lahat at maaaring hindi makorek. No? Yan. Now we go to folic acid. So yung folic acid, again, for treatment of megaloblastic anemia, secondary to folic acid deficiency. And folic acid is comprised of three components. You have the pteridine derivative, the PABA, and the glutamic acid. So folic acid is necessary. Again, sabi natin, it is converted to tetrahydrofolate, no? And subsequently transformed to folate cofactors. So there are various forms of folic acid are present in a wide variety of plant and animal tissue. So pwede natin siya makuha sa mga pagkain. Ayan, ang green vegetables. Siguro naman kumakain kayo ng lettuce, ano? Oh, yung iba pang maraming green vegetables. Tapos, yan din, again, sa liver. O, ayan. Kumain kayo ng minuno, meron na kayong folic, meron na kayong B12, no? Pati kidneys. O, saan mo malalagay yung kidneys? Sa bopis, di ba, no? Yun. Okay? So, it's water soluble, it's treated in the urine and the stool. Now, unlike B12, na 2 microgram lang ang daily requirement natin, ang folic acid, mababa kasi ang stores natin ng folic acid and we do not produce our own folic acid. We are dependent on food. Kaya, kailangan, daily requirement for folic acid is high, especially for pregnant women. Okay? And folic acid is also preventive for neural tube defects sa mga babies. Diba? So, kaya pagka magbubuntis ka o buntis ka, maganda may folic acid as a absorption of folic acid is at the proximal jejunum. Okay? So, sabi ko nga, ang causes, pwede ito, inadequate intake, alcohol, buntis ka, maternal folic acid deficiency can cause fetal neural tube defect, malabsorption, o kaya nagda-dialysis. So, there are drugs that may cause folic acid deficiency, yung methotrexate, TMP sulfa, you know that, antibiotic, and phenytoin therapy, which is for anti-seizure drug. Okay? So, bibigay ka ng oral folic acid, madali lang naman i-treat, iinom ka lang, no? And 1 milligram folic acid orally daily is sufficient to reverse megaloblastic anemia. Okay naman, madali naman siya. Now we go to the next group, yung mga myeloid growth factors. Now, yung myeloid growth factors, they could be the GCSF or the GM-CSF. Granulocyte colony stimulating factor or granulocyte monocyte stimulating factor. Para saan yan? Diba? Naalala nyo, kamakailan lang sa downfall nyo, anti-neoplastic, common adverse effect, bone marrow suppression, diba? So, nagkakaroon sila ng febrile neutropenia. And to prevent that from happening, we give this supplement. We give this adjuvant drugs. Ito yung pang-additional sa chemotherapy nila para ma-prevent yung chemotherapy-associated bone marrow suppression. So, yung GM-CSF, it's a granulocyte monocyte colony stimulating factor. So, it's a multi-potential hematopoietic growth factor that stimulates the proliferation and differentiation of granulocytic progenitor cells as well as erythroid and megakaryocyte progenitor cells. So, halos lahat nasa kanya na. Hindi lang siya pang neutrophils, pang platelet pa at saka pang red cells. Hindi lang yun. Hindi lang na padadamihin yung mga cells na yun. But, it also stimulates the function of the neutrophils, which is essential to counter infection. Diba? Pag nagkikimo yung pasyente mo, anong kinatatakot mo? Magkaroon siya ng infection. Kasi yung kanyang immune system mababa, gawa ng mababa yung kanyang mga neutrophils. So you give this, you promote the production of neutrophils, at the same time, yung mga neutrophils ay functional. Hindi lang madami, nagpa-function din siya. Okay? So ano ang example ng GM-CSF? Ayan. Diyan tayo. Mahirap i-pronounce, no? Sargramostin. Dahan-dahan lang naman, magpapadali. Sargramostin. Para lang nagsasabi ka ng spell. Sargramostin. Ano? Para naman lang yan, no? So, given IV or subcutaneous. Okay? And then we have the GCSF. Anong kaibahan niya? It stimulates proliferation of the progenitor na mga neutrophils. So, sa neutrophils lang siya. Okay? So, medyo mas mura siya, no? So, under GCSF, we have the pegfilgrastim. O, di ba natin yung filgrastim sa antineoplastic, sinasabi yun, di ba? So, meron tayong pegylated form, yung pegfilgrastim. Okay? Pagka may PEG, ibig sabihin ng pegylated. At pag pegylated, kasi pinahaba niya yung pangalan, mas longer yung half-life niya. Okay? And then we also have the linograstim. Ito naman is a glycosylated form of recombinant GCSF. Again, napoprolong yung half-life. Okay? So, saan natin siya ginagamit? Ayan, cancer chemotherapy-induced neutropenia. Okay? So, it reduces episodes of febrile neutropenia, reduces hospitalization, and reduces antibiotic coverage. And then also for patients with, ayun na nga, yung mga may febrile neutropenia, oo. Okay, so ito yung usual dose. And then, ito pa, yung may congenital neutropenia, yung may cyclic neutropenia, myelodysplasia, and aplastic anemia. So sila will benefit from giving GM-CSF or GCSF. Eh, ito rin yung may autologous stem cell transplantation. Okay? Ano ang adverse effects? Sa GCSF, okay, yung GCSF bone pain lang. Pero sa GM-CSF, mas madami. M4, mas madami. Like fever, malaise, arthralgia, at yung capillary leak syndrome, namanasin yung pasyente, no? So to the point that they would have pleural or pericardial effusion. So yun yung pinaka-babatayan mo when you give GM-CSF. Then we also have the megakaryocyte growth factor. So, ano yung ibig sabihin nun? You increase the production of platelets, no? And then, dalawang klase, yung megakaryocyte growth factor, yung thrombopoietin and interleukin 11. Yung thrombopoietin, it acts on the thrombopoietin receptor called MPL. Ano yung MPL? Minimum passing level. Yung MPL, yun yung pangalan mismo ng receptor ng thrombopoietin. Pero ano yung MPL nyo? 57. Pero, ang 57 is equivalent to 75. And then, so, ito yung thrombopoietin receptor, yung MPL. And the megakaryocyte growth factors, dalawang klase na yan. Diba? Yung thrombopoietin and interleukin 1. So, we have the thrombopoietin agonist. When you say thrombopoietin agonist, they bind to the thrombopoietin receptor. So, ayan siya, Brobil plus T. At saka merong L-thrombopag at saka Aba-thrombopag. Okay? Trom for thrombopoietin. Okay? Then we have the interleukin 11. It acts naman on a different type of receptor. Cell surface cytokine receptor that will stimulate the growth of the lymphoid and myeloid cells. And it acts synergistically with growth factor. So this is used for prevention of thrombocytopenia in patients who also undergo chemotherapy and for treatment of myeloid cancers. So under interleukin 11, we have oprelvetin. This is the recombinant interleukin 11, oprelvetin. So it is derived from E. coli with a half-life of about 7 to 8 hours given by a subcutaneous route. Okay? Ano ang pinaka-common adverse effect ng interleukin 11? Headache, dizziness, cardiovascular effects. Okay? It can also cause hypokalemia, but all of these are reversible. Now, yung mga thrombopoietin agonists. So, thrombopoietin agonists, we have Brobil plus T. Average half-life is 3 to 4 days. Okay? And it is given via sub-Q. Okay. And then we have L-thrombopag, another thrombopoietin agonist. Okay? This is orally active naman, oral preparation. And then, it is potentially hepatotoxic. And all of these cause mortal vein thrombosis. So yun yung mga problema nila. And then you also have thrombopag. Also, a common adverse effect is portal vein thrombosis. Also, an orally active thrombopoietin agonist. Now, also another one is fostamatinib. Ang fostamatinib is a prodrug. So it has a metabolite, yung R406, which is a tyrosine kinase inhibitor. Okay? So it has a lot of drug-drug interaction, but it is given orally also. And these are the adverse effects. Hepatotoxic halos lahat ng mga megakaryocyte growth factors. So yun lang lahat ang sa blood. So this is the summary of the different drugs that we just discussed. So sana lumabas sa inyo mga sa shift. By the way, on Friday, you have double shifting. Tulong ka lang din, hindi? Makatulong talaga. Sige, tulong yan. Okay? So I don't know if next week we're going to have shifting exam. Kasi sabi ko na every 2 weeks na doon. Eh, di ba every 2 weeks na dami yung Sige, kami natin daily. Kasi masupos na tayo. Hindi, kasi depende sa availability naman. Pero gusto namin talaga weekly. Kasi, siyempre pag weekly, mas konti yung kakaralin mo. Pero, depende kasi hindi. Walang okay namin